Howdy, y'all, and welcome to another high-powered episode of the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder with Nat King Code, coming to you live from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado. I'm joined by my excellent co-host, Mr. James Stalcup, CEO of the Bolt Online Academy and creator of the High Voltage Live podcast. Really awesome, the show you put together every week, James. Really had a great time doing the Super Bowl one. Really awesome. Shout out to all the NEC for Dummies hitting 25K. That was freaking amazing. And it's really cool. I try to put together some cool little code things for you guys, little code lessons or whatever I can to try to keep everyone sharp and to try to, help some of these J-dubs get licensed. Some of these guys that have been doing it, we call them in the trade the Apprenticesaurus Rexes, just to try to, not just stay an apprentice for a long time, but actually strive to try to get that license. And it looks like we already have David Englehart in the house. Welcome.
Oh, hey, David.
Yeah. It's going to be we're thinking 3 weeks, David, is what James was talking about.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. I will say this, I'm kicking ass. And
yeah, David's just wondering when the website's going to be back up, or when the LMS is going to be back up.
It'll be back up in about 3 weeks. Where I'm finishing up right now the 2023 NEC Changes online course, which I have to get it done because, well, I can't really say, but big announcement will be coming. That looks like everything's going to be a done deal, and it'll be a huge announcement. And then I'll start adding all the other stuff back in, which will go pretty quickly. Within 2 weeks, I'll have everything just boom, 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 one after another. And we're already in the process of the 2023 NEC or 2023 Journeyman and Master course, which looks incredible when we complete it. And it'll be out probably into May. And then I was just talking to Dad today, and the new design book or not new design book, the one we're updating. If you go and look at the design book, we thought it was going to be a lot worse than what it was when they moved a lot of the high voltage stuff around and a lot of the other sections and table changes and everything. But when you go look at it, and I'm telling you, anybody can go look and check to see I'm telling you the truth. Other than us changing the sections and tables and stuff, it's laid out just like our design book. It's unbelievable. Dad goes, hell, what'd they do? Just look at our design book and lay it out like it. I mean, it looks just like it. And
nice.
All we're doing is changing sections and adding some stuff. We added a lot of new for the radial transformers. Nobody has anything on that, so we added that into the design book, and it's also going to be added into the generator transform motor compressor book. And that's going to be one major thing we added to explain what that is exactly, because it's become very popular now and nobody's addressing it. So we took care of that portion of it. So that's where we're at. A lot of updates are coming.
One thing I will say, James, I really like about your system is you make it to where it's a living document. It kind of grows. You know what I mean? It's not like it's just set in stone. You focus on the principles, and then all you have to do is just change a few references here and there. And to me, that's always blown me away, how you can put so many codes that apply to that one thing on one illustration. And I think that's going to be really awesome.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm in chapter 2 right now, but the whole code changes is completely laid out. I've got everything done, text on it. Now I'm going back doing the illustrations with all the layering and everything that has to go with it, so I can link everything. And I just did one today, 220.50 A and B, and I think it had 14 sections in it, including tables that I had to put in there. It took me 2 hours just to get that one. Well, actually, it was almost 3 hours to get that one slide ready to go. And it goes to sort of explain a lot of them that lay their publications out and everything, or their online courses, it's easy to put some text in and just add a picture or just add an illustration. But when you start doing all this interactivity and providing all these links and everything else, and you have to put that information in, you don't realize how much work goes into it till you really go in and start looking at it. So when people are looking at this and they start looking at how to do these calculations and all the section numbers and table numbers that have changed, you better have a program to know that shows you all these new sections, or you're going to be lost. Um, like I caught a mistake that we had to fix in the publication, but we did not change 220.14J. And I was looking, I go, hell, that isn't right. That's now 220.41. So I
Right.
can go back and fix the illustration, but all the other sections got changed. And that's what I'm talking about. You find little things like that, and it's real easy to make an error like that because we do point out so many different sections and code loops when you go through our publications, and nobody else does that. And
Well, and
you know
one
why
thing I was,
they
oh,
don't do it? Because it takes a long time to go back and update all
yeah.
that stuff.
One thing everyone's been bugging me a lot. What do you have an official date when you think you'll have the states? When at least you'll have the state of Colorado. I don't care about the other states.
I'm looking at the state of Colorado probably about time they give me approval and everything. It'll be right about May sometime. Before the end of May, I should have that and down, and it will be on the 2023 NEC changes. And then
Wow.
what they're going to do is I'm going to get to take that all the way around to the next cycle for right before 2026, and then I'll submit a new 2026 about the same time that next cycle. So,
So that's actually amazing because we're not even adopting 2023 until July 1st.
mm-hmm.
It might even be August 1st. I'm not sure. I think last cycle it was like it came in late. It's supposed to be July 1st, but I think we got it in late last cycle because of COVID and stuff.
Well, see, and that's why I hadn't done Texas yet, because Texas will set theirs coming up here pretty soon. I hadn't even checked. They might have done it at first year, but I definitely know they do it by next September. So if that happens, Texas, I will have the 2023 also on there for the state of Texas. I'll probably be the only one that has a full online course that's already been approved.
Wow. So, the thing that's crazy about Texas is they said something. I don't know if this is true or not, but one of the online code guys was saying that the state of Texas, you have to follow the code even if you don't pull a permit. I don't know how that works, but is that something just for Texas or something? I don't know. It just sounds weird.
That's the state, and where that really gets into is where you're out in the county, because the cities will come get you otherwise, because you're going to pull a permit there. But when you're out in the county, they don't pull permits, but you still have to follow the adopted version of the code at that time. So if we're in 2023, they're going to have to adopt, or they'll have to install by the 2023 or the 2020, whichever one we're in. And
yo, what up? Welcome in the house.
Yeah, and Jerry Daniels with the state, he's the state electrical chief inspector. He will enforce that.
Hey, you got me screwed up on that one.
What's that?
His name is actually Jerry Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
I was calling him Jerry Daniels. And
I've always said Jerry Daniels.
And you got me in trouble, but no,
I've known Jerry for a long, long time.
Just kidding. So just want to let everyone know we got a meme of the week. That this was a really funny meme. It came from one of my groups where somebody posted a video, and I don't want to say the guy's name or anything, but he purposely blew up a 120 volt MC cable to slow motion it on his phone, and we actually screenshotted it and made him famous. So
here we go.
Hope you guys. Yeah. So, and that we tie in some other little inside jokes.
Who
for
was
some
that?
other stuff. It was one of the group members of one of my groups that purposely shorted it out, and then he slow motion video shot it. We got Jorg. Awesome, Jorg.
Good to see you, brother.
I always, his name's actually Jorge, but everyone calls him George. But one of the Vandals is in the house. Welcome, Vandal.
Hey.
But yeah, we give him crap. I like Jorg, but yeah, it was really funny because he just wanted to. It was kind of a cool slow motion shot because he was sitting there with his Sawzall and an MC cable, and like right when he got through the MC cable, you could like see the light flicker that was going to, like right when the arc flashed, right when it was going. It was kind of a cool slow motion video, but I haven't seen the video in a while. We used to pop it around different groups, but I don't know where it is now. I got kicked out of so many electrical groups, I don't even know where it went. But
oh well,
it is what it is. But I really appreciate everyone for the participation. Meme of the week is actually last week, but I still had a ton of participation. I'm up like 70,000 participation on my meme of the week, which is a lot of fun. And I always try to bust a myth every week. And this week we are doing the bare grounded conductor in MC cable. So let's roll it.
All right.
It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right. Well, this one was kind of a fun one that I did. This was out. I'm working at a hospital right now, so I'm able to go around, just take pictures of everything. On the left, what you'll see is the actual cable with the bare conductor wrapped back. Some people say it's required. There's actually a J box. You can't really see it in that right hand picture in there, but it's funny because they actually have that wrapped back like all the way, almost probably like I'd say probably 3 inches on that cable. You can't really see it in that picture. And then over here is the actual manufacturer instructions for the cable that's in the picture on the left, which is HCF. I can't remember the exact part number, but it just basically shows you right there, take your dikes, just cut it off and slide your connector on. So at some point in time, somebody must have taken an energized conductor and, touched it to the jacket, and the overcurrent device didn't open. So they said, well, we need to reduce the impedance of this this fault path. And so basically, to comply with the healthcare facility with 517.13 A and B, you need to have both of these paths. So a lot of people kind of call it a redundant ground. It's actually required, as basically like what they're trying to do is they're trying to decrease the impedance to open the overcurrent device faster for possible patient care, people that are in a vulnerable position that could have a more susceptible likelihood to be shocked in that, I guess you would call it like a vulnerable position where these doctors are using like instruments that are powered instruments. And so what they want to do is they want to just make sure that in these patient care areas that they're trying to make the best possible grounding path, equipment grounding path, regardless if it's the equipment grounding conductor or a bonding conductor. They both act together to ensure that effective ground fault current path.
Sure.
And I really like this slide, James. That's a good one.
Yeah, well, when I know what this is about, and I remember back when I was an apprentice and we started using BX cable, or AC cable, whatever you want to call it. But we were always told to wrap it back, and but there was really nothing in the code that really addressed it. And I remember back when they were discussing this, um, uh, they were doing this because we had actually done a publication for AFC cable, and it was just installation of AFC cable. And at that time we were doing it, they were actually discussing this particular myth of the week, and they went in and they started writing 517.13, making changes to it. And when you actually look at this section, and it's going to refer you to 250.118, where you're dealing with the metallic cable armor or the sheath assembly itself. And they tell you that it qualifies as an equipment grounding conductor in accordance with 250.118. And
Right.
that's why when you look at the manufacturer's instructions, they're showing you cutting that little bond wire off inside there, because you're actually,
Right.
the sheath is being used. You don't need to wrap that back. And I would take issue with it anyway, because I would say that bare conductor in there is touching the metal anyway, all the way through, most spots. So I
Yeah,
would.
I thought this was interesting too because I actually saw a reference to our last week, or actually 2 weeks ago, myth of the week, of 250.12 that says you have to remove the stickers.
Mhm.
So, I mean, even though you think you're doing something good by having that sticker on that MC cable and then just wrapping that bear around there, you think you're making good contact. That's actually a code violation at 250.12.
Right.
So that I thought was interesting too, that even though you think you're doing something better, you're actually still a code violation.
Sure. And that's what you get into when you start looking at this stuff. You have to go back. Sometimes you need to look and see what the substantiation was from the code making panel. I just didn't have time to go back and grab all that information for
No,
this
and
particular podcast.
it's really awesome, like all the research that you do. It's really amazing. I think we kind of click it off, but I will lay it to rest. This myth is officially busted.
Yeah. Yeah. That
You
you
do
know
not have to wrap it back.
And that's what I said. That myth really, it falls back to when you were looking, when we were it first come out and we were dealing with BX, and it was just something that was out there. People were saying, "Oh, you need to wrap that," and you really didn't. And eventually, the manufacturers didn't say either or back then, and now they actually put it in their manufacturer's instructions. So
Right.
it just sort of proves
And
the point.
there could be manufacturer instructions that require you to back wrap that.
Yeah.
We're not saying that, but you just follow 110.3b, listed and labeled equipment, follow manufacturer instructions. So that was more or less why I put this as a 110.3b myth, that the one that I actually took pictures of and took the manufacturer's instructions of says to just cut it off.
Right.
So that's how we busted that myth.
All right. Okay. You want to do
So,
topic of the week?
yeah, I hear you got a good one this week.
Yeah, this will be pretty good for everybody. I find this topic interesting because we're talking about using other NFPA standards with NEC. And what I might do, I'm doing this with Article 110 as an example up at the front with 110.16, 110.21, and 110.24. But what I probably want to do is I want to do like a little series of this and go through the code showing the interaction, because there's other NFPA standards, and go through and explain some of this, and especially when we get over into like hazardous and stuff like that, because I hadn't seen anybody do a podcast yet and go through and show how to do classification, and that will take some time, because there's a lot of things we need to look at when we get into that. But when you go and you classify, like I used to go out and teach courses, and I'd say, all right, I have a hazardous location, and I'd just say, what's that distance? Everybody'd say 20 foot. Well, they would treat the 20 foot like they were at a gas station. Well, that is 20 foot in that area out from the gas pumps, but that is a specific location that's referenced by the code. When you get in and start classifying class 1, division 1, 2, class 2, div 1, 2, and class 3, div 1, 2, you need to also work that in compliance with NFPA 497 and 499. And if you're doing purge and pressurized systems, you need to look at NFPA 496. So there's a lot of coordination, and you're going to notice a lot of this because they're going to reference these standards in the informational notes. And a lot of times when they're referencing these informational notes and they're giving you other standards, you might want to go look at that standard, because there's going to be some important information that's going to go with that. Now, as an example, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to look at labeling, okay?
Right.
And showing the direct tie-in with the NFPA 70E. Now, I can still go into NFPA 70E and I can tie that in a little further, which I might do later with NFPA 70B, about the maintenance of the equipment and making sure that it's maintained properly by the date. If it's not, then the labeling actually wouldn't be compliant at that point, because if it isn't maintained properly, that can change the cal rating. Okay.
Right. So isn't 11016, isn't that arc flash label?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of one of my favorites. I kind of had a joke about Tommy Davis, where he was saying that you have to put like a zip tie or some kind of lock tool, so only a tool can remove the lock on the disconnect. And I said, really, all you need is 11016. You put a label on there to tell the children that they're not qualified, so they don't open it because they know they're not qualified. So,
yeah, right.
That's it's the code's already got it in place. So kids are going to read that arc flash label and just know that they're not qualified person to be opening that cover.
All right, let's take a look. Let me show you what I've done here. All right, now what we're going to look at is using other NFPA standards with NEC, and this is one of our illustrations. Now, what this is in 110.16b, this is where you get into your arc flash warning. And if you look on the left-hand side, now, what I like to tell people when they're looking at things like this, like if you were in our online course, we would have something laid out like this. In 110.16b, you could click that section and pull this information up. And it talks about the service labeling. And when you look at this, you need to have the nominal system voltage and the available fault current at the service equipment protection device. We also need to know the clearing time of the service overcurrent protection device. And of course, that's based on the available fault current at that service equipment and the date the labeling was applied. Then if you look over on the right-hand side of the illustration, then, and this is for equipment that's rated over 1,000 amps or more that we're looking at here. Now, if I look at 70E, it's on the right-hand side of the illustration, and we're going to tell you need to look at 130.5H and exception 3 for this. And we're going to tell you there, we tell you need the nominal system voltage, the available incident energy levels, the arc flash boundaries required, or it could be the level of PPE minimum arc rating of clothing, and all this will be outlined in H here. And I'm gonna show you all this in a minute. But
hey, I just got like kind of a stupid question about this.
Mm-hmm.
Where would this be like required to be applied? Like just general, like would we have to do this at a dwelling unit service?
No. No, this is for service equipment rated over 1,000 amps or more.
And that's it? Is there like a 11016A that says
Yeah, yeah,
other?
yeah. I'm just going through an example here. I'm not going through everything.
Okay. I was just wondering because I know sometimes, like in like dwelling units, you're not required to have an R class sticker.
Well, it specifically says other than dwelling units.
Okay, Tempor. Gotcha.
And when you look at note 1 that we have here in the illustration, we tell you need to review a few things here. We're going to tell you to look at 110.16B, which we're looking at. Also look at 110.21B, 110.24, and 110.25. And then you got your ANSI standard, Z535.4, which gets into the labeling. And matter of fact, if you look, we also come in the code now and we talk about the coloring. Well, that's based on that ANSI standard. So if we're just signaling something, we do that in white, yellow. If we're giving a warning, we do it in orange. And if there's a danger, then we do it in red. Okay.
Yep.
That's where that's off. And then right after that, we tell you to also look at NFPA 70E and look at 130.5H. So we're sort of taking and laying this out in a systematic way so you know how to do the labeling for this piece of equipment. Now, one of the things that'll happen, I'm going to give everybody an example of something here. Now, if you look in like our 70E publication. Now, when this first come out, and you've heard me say this before, I was on the task group when we did all this, and we put the tables together for selecting your PPE and depending on the type of equipment you were working on in the task and setting up the parameters and all that good stuff. Well, one of the things that we do in our publication is to let you know why something happened. Well, when we put that table together, we were having problems with because we did it for the contractors that go out. They didn't have a staff and they needed, if I'm ever doing the table method or the calculation method, I've always said you got to know 3 certain things. You got to know the available fault current, the clearing time, and the working distance. Okay. Well, what they were having problems with was getting the available fault current. So in order to do that, we come in and added what? 110.24, which is your available fault current. And that is required now before you pass the final inspection. So you're going to have to get that from the utility. Right. You see what I'm saying? So that's why we're showing here when we get into this labeling what is required. And you can look at 110.16B, but you're going to need to look at all these other sections here and these other standards in order to know what is exactly required to be total or the total information that's on that label. All right. Right. Now, here's a good example. Here's 110.16A.
Okay.
And
I should have just waited. I'm sorry. I blurted it out too soon.
That's okay. But you'll see it talks about electrical equipment such as switchboard, switchgear, enclosed panel boards, industrial control panels, meter socket enclosures, motor control centers. That is in other than what? Dwelling units. Now, you've heard me say this before, and I've always maintained this. Even when I go over and look at 110.26A1 and I look at working space of clearance, I've always said, if I gave you an example and I said, here I've got a panel board over here and I come over here and I have a disconnect and then I've got a motor over here, does that disconnect have to have a working clearance in front of it? I said, well, it depends, because if it's a non-fusible type disconnect, no, you don't need any clearance, because by OSHA and 70E that should be locked out and tagged out. Okay,
and it's not likely to be worked on while energized.
That's right. But now if you got fuses in there and you're wanting to go in and you're going to check the fuse to see if it's bad or not, then you're doing that while it's energized, so you would need a workspace clearance. Well, the same language is right here. They're recognizing the type of equipment you're going to work on, and they say, and is likely to require what? Examination, adjustment, service, or maintenance while it's what? Energized. And if that's the case, it's required to be field or factory marked to warn qualified persons of potential electrical arc flash hazards. Okay.
Yeah, and that I can see why a 4-year-old couldn't read that. You know what I mean? Like if you put it on label. One of the things I think is a little bit of an anomaly here is one of the questions that we had somebody ask us if NFPA 70E applies to a residential project, a dwelling unit project that you're working on.
70E applies to anything if you're working on it while it's energized.
Well, no, I'm just saying that, like, you don't have to put the warning label on there. Because other than dwelling.
That's right.
But 70E would still apply because what? A workplace.
That's right, because you're working on it energized. We don't recognize any type of residential, commercial, industrial, anything. We basically just tell you working on energized electrical conductors or circuit parts while what? Energized.
Energized. Yep.
That's it. And the only thing that we do recognize where we call something out is like this here, where we say it's required in other than dwelling units. And this would be a good example where you're getting into your markings and stuff.
Yeah, okay? I agree. So I just wanted to point out that even though an arc flash label is not required for your service equipment in a dwelling unit, it's still covered under 70E because it's a workplace, and not saying you have to put a label on there. You just have to realize that you still do not get a free pass on justified energized work.
That's right. That's correct. All right. Then if you look at B, it says in other dwelling units, and it talks about in addition to the requirements of 110.6A, and this is where the feeder and equipment's over what? 1,000 amps or more. Then you got to start looking at a few things here, and look where it goes down, and you pick up informational note number 1. There's your ANSI standard, and informational note number 2 takes you to where? The 70E document. Now, one thing I want to go back, I just want, I'll stay right here, it's fine. If you look at the last sentence, that's in 110.16B, it says the label shall meet the requirements of which section? 110.21B.
Yeah.
See that? Okay. So all I'm doing at this point is I'm just tying everything together to show you the requirements that are going to be required here to do this labeling. Okay. So the next thing we looked at was 130.5H, and this is in the 2021 70E document, and this deals with equipment labeling. And if you look, it's almost, if you read that, it reads almost exactly like 110.16B, except for they come in and they talk about the label containing the following information, and you got your nominal system voltage, your arc flash boundary, at least one of the following. You got your available incident energy and the corresponding working distance, or you can have the arc flash PPE category that's in those tables, C15A or B, for the equipment, but you can't have both. It'll be one of the two. And then you'll have your minimum arc rating of clothing and your site-specific level of PPE. Okay? Right. Now, if I
or whichever is greater. If there's a standard that's greater, then you need to follow it.
Right. So let's take a look at that for a second. Now, I just went in and gave you what the 70E document. So what differs from the 110.16B? Well, if I'm looking at that, I've got the available fault current and the clearing time and the date the labeling was applied. Those will be 3 extra that go on top of what's required in the 70E label.
Right.
See that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, that is what you get into when you start looking at this, and you got to know what is exactly required. Now, here's what you get into when you get in and you look at 110.21B, and this is where you get into your labeling. Now, if I look at this and I put that information on there, that marking has to be permanently marked and affixed per 110.21B2. Now, if I look at this right here, you're going to see the labeling on that equipment is a warning. So since it's a warning, that top portion of it's going to be which color? Orange. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if this was a danger, it'd be red, but we're giving you a warning here. And this label has to be able to withstand the environment, and those environmental safety concerns are based in ANSI standard Z535.4. And then when I look at uh, uh, these facilities here, and I'm looking at this label, all I'm going to remember here is by 110.21B and the ANSI standard Z535.4 that this labeling will have to have orange color. Okay, because it is a
So
warning.
let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Can I buy orange label tape for my label maker and put that warning on there?
I'm not sure what you're asking exactly.
Like, can I just do it with a label maker?
You can use
Or
any
do
type. You can use any type of label that gives a warning and has this specific information that's required, and it's permanently affixed to it.
So this is really funny. I was kind of we might even do another myth about this coming up, but I actually found this out. So you can use it. You are able to use label maker because the label maker tape is suitable for the environment. It says right on it that it's suitable to be used in that environment.
And that's what I was saying. There's
Yeah.
like one of the companies I went out and did work for, they had bought a thing that made the labels and all of that. And I forget which brand it was, but they did all their labels, and the label itself was suitable for the environment, and they were able to give the warning up top and then give the information below when they put it on all their equipment. And that
Yep.
was perfectly
Absolutely.
fine. And that's why
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's why I was saying I wasn't sure if there was something I wasn't sure what you were talking
No,
about.
I just had an inspector say he couldn't do that, and then I went and I showed him the cartridge, and it says right on the label maker cartridge, it says suitable for the environment.
Okay.
So it's if anybody wants to battle inspector, that's the best way to do it. Take your label maker tape out there and show them. I haven't not seen a single label maker tape that doesn't comply with the language that says must be suitable for the environment. So just a little shout out to
Sure.
everyone.
And if you look at 110.21B1 right here in the text, it tells you the marking shall be of sufficient durability to withstand the environment involved and warn of the hazards using effective words, symbols, colors, or any combination thereof.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. And that's what you get into. And then when you look at B2, I said it has to be what? Permanently affixed to the equipment. Okay.
Yeah, and we would do ours in red because we were going above the code.
Okay.
We were just going like code times 2. I'm
All
just kidding. I don't think
I've never seen that before, but
I'm just kidding.
that'd be something. Now, if you look here, then you go to 110.24, and what does it say? Available fault current, and it says it has to be marked on this and other than dwelling units. And it says it'll be legibly marked in the field with available fault current. And it says that those field markings shall include what? The date the fault current calculation was performed and be of sufficient durability to do what? Withstand the environment once again. And then you drop down and you pick up informational note number 1. And what does it tell you to comply it with? NFPA 70E, the 2021 version for electrical safety in the workplace. And this is to help for determining and assistance for what? The severity of potential exposure, planning safe work practices, and selecting your PPE.
Right.
And that's, you remember the class I did or the course we did a couple weeks back, and I did it showing the difference between the table and the calculation method.
Yeah.
This is another portion of this that would go with that.
Okay.
So you would have to look at that and understand it. So when you look at this, here we get into the field marking, and you see all the information that's required here. You got your available fault current. we're telling you here that it was 48,850 amps, and we just said the date it was calculated was 01/01/20. Okay, and
Okay.
and you look, and we're telling you what type of equipment it is and everything. We put a whole illustration here to give you an example, and then all the notes that you need to consider here. Okay, but
Right.
I'm not done. Now let's look at one more portion. In 110.24b, it talks about modifications. Now you're going to pay attention because I'm going to get to the next section. And you're going to understand why. It says when modifications to the electrical installation occur that affect the available fault current at the service, the available fault current shall be verified or recalculated as necessary to ensure the equipment ratings are sufficient for the available fault current at the line terminals of the equipment. So in other words, if I have to adjust those, I have to reflect the new level of that available fault current.
Right.
Okay.
So is there like a Busman app or something that you could just plug all those numbers in and get that, or does it have to be by like a qualified person? Does it have to be by like a qualified engineer? Could I just do it myself and put it on there and be accurate based on the length of conductor, the conductor material,
I
the
think
number of parallels?
For the available fault current, if it's at the service, you're going to want to get that from the utility.
Well, no, I get that you're getting the available fault current, but I'm saying that once you're, doing your thing, usually it's on the print, but let's just say they change from like copper to aluminum or something. Is that something I could go in and just plug all those numbers into an app and then get my available fault current and label it at the gear? Or would I have to get an engineer PE to do that?
I think you'd have to get an engineer PE to do that because you're going to have to get certain information from the utility at the service to do that.
Okay.
I don't know how else you would do that.
I mean, I know they were talking about that one time. I thought was funny was like make the conductor take a lap and then you could lower the available fault current. But I didn't know if that was something I could do on my own through like an app or something, or if I had to have somebody do that for me.
I don't think there's an app for that I'm aware of. I do know that we do, once you get past the service equipment, you can put all that information in, and they've got apps for that to help you determine the cal rating and everything else.
Right.
But
because that would still have to be, you'd still have to calculate, like, let's just say, for example, that one in your thing is a 2000. Let's just say you had a 1000 downstream. You'd still have to have the available fault current at the 1000.
Well, sure you would. And then that depends because there's a lot of facilities, they just take the worst case scenario at the service equipment and apply that throughout the plant. But if you're breaking it down inside the plant, well, then you would use the software that helps calculate that cal rating and everything.
Okay, gotcha. So that's basically all that's trying to do is just get your instant energy for appropriate PPE.
Sure. We even show you in our design book and our generator transformer motor compressor book, we show you once you're inside the facility, we show you how to calculate that short circuit current.
Okay.
So gotcha. Yeah, we have all that information.
Sorry for asking all stupid questions. I think it's fun to kind of understand it. I give a bunch of my apprentices crap when they don't ask enough questions because I'm always asking questions and I don't care how stupid they are. Oh. Everyone can call me all the names they want. Like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Well, you know what?
There's one other thing I want to point out. When you start looking at this and because I got sidetracked. You asked me something else. My mind went to thinking of something else. But when you get in, you look at this field marking and everything, there's one part that you're going to take and you're going to look at modification and stuff. But by 70E, you're supposed to check that every 5 years anyway.
Okay. Yeah, we just had a comment from Billy Madden. Busman app can do service available fault current if you know the power company's transformer info. So
That's what I was
appreciate
saying.
it.
You're gonna have to go to the power company. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, appreciate that, Billy. You got an excellent comment. So,
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know where, because you got to go to the power company to get the information. There's just no other way you would know.
We ran into before where even though the power company gives us the AIC, where they've done changes and they're like, oh, copper's too expensive, we're gonna go aluminum, and then just increase the parallels and stuff. And then they're like, well, do we just take this off the print? Well, no, because it's not accurate. Whatever that calculation was is done off copper, not aluminum. So all your AICs at the service is going to be different,
right?
Coming in from your service entrance.
Well,
But no, great. No, that was awesome.
He's completely right, and that's what I was saying when you asked me that question. I was like, well, wait a minute, you're going to have to get certain information from the utility, and if you didn't know that previously, then I don't know how you'd be able to do it.
Well, no, they give you some of the stuff of like the constants in the engineering, but then once you change it, your constant goes from whatever, like 12 to 19 or whatever, then you should be able to just go into like an app, like Billy said about Busman, and just calculate it out and then put the new readjusted AIC on your gear.
Right. Yeah. Matter of fact, we actually show them constants 10.4 and was it 12.8, I guess, something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
12.6. But we actually
I always love the 1,000 foot wire constant. That always cracks me up. Just because we were always stirring that up.
Well, we actually show in the design book when you're applying those different constants and stuff, depending on which type of wire. I know 10.4 is copper because I deal with it all the time. I don't deal with aluminum that much, but we actually show you how to do that based on that constant. So
Nice.
those are things Dad added in those publications that have been there forever, and that was from him working with the utilities all those years. Matter of fact, in our OSHA high voltage and telecommunication yellow book, we call it, they actually go in and show the calculations dealing with the utility and applying those factors on the copper. So
nice.
All right.
So what do we got? 5 changes?
Yeah, 5 changes. Let me cue it up. All right. Well, this week we got one more that's left in chapter 6, and then we're in chapter 7. So it looks like we'll be finishing this up in March. So we finally have got there. Started in July. We're all the way coming into March to do all of these freaking changes.
Yeah, and it's awesome. People can always go back and look and follow the changes back. And if James gypped you on any, let me know, because I can usually get them back out of you later.
You sure about that?
Hey, I got mine back from Colorado 2020.
All right. Now, what they did here, they made a revision, and this was to help clarify the voltage drop requirements when we're dealing with fire pumps. And basically, you've got a voltage drop that is for motor starting, and then you got it where it's for emergency run, and then you got the one for bypass mode, and then motor running. Okay. And what I might do now that they made the changes to this and everything, is look at putting together where we show how to do the voltage drop for when the motor starting, because when you look at that, it'll tell you unless the requirements of 695 B and C are met, then it tells you the voltage at the fire pump controller line terminal shall not drop more than 15% below the normal uh, controller rated voltage under motor starting conditions. And
Did
then
we already do voltage drop as a myth? Thought we
we
did.
we did voltage drop as a myth, but what I did on that, we basically covered for the branch circuit where we looked at 210.19A3, I think it is, fine print note number
Yeah,
4. And
informational note.
yeah, and then 215 point what A1 informational note 2, I think it is. But
Sure.
we went through and looked at those, and I broke them down to where you'll see the branch circuit was like at 3%, but no more than 5% for the total. So we would take the feeder at 2%. And
Yeah.
we broke that down. And then I showed how to calculate it using two different methods. I showed how to do it where we did 2 time R time L time I time or divided by 1,000. And then we
Yep.
also did it where we showed it based on circular mill and using chapter 9 table 8. So we
Yeah,
did
and
go through that.
then we even found out which one would carry more, would have the less loss between a solid and a stranded. That one was a good one.
That was extra information I pulled out for that one. That was a pretty in-depth one when I was showing that, because I got a lot of comments from people like, "Damn, I never seen that before." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, you know, that that goes back and shows you the way they used to do this stuff. And
Right.
what I always tell people is, when you're looking at some of the stuff that we may be showing on a podcast, or if I'm teaching a course, whatever, a lot of the stuff that I pull out and show like that uh, is based on testing that has been done, many, 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 many years ago. And
Right.
a lot of that testing is how they developed all your conductor amperages for your tables and everything in order to apply that voltage drop. And a lot
Right.
of people don't realize that. And the same thing can be said when they're applying, when they're doing their grounding and they're sizing their conductors. Like Dad, he gave the course he did with us, and he was explaining table 25066 and how they use the multiplier 189 to size all them conductors, and then the testing that was done, to a ground rod, concrete encased electrode, ground ring, whatever they were going to, and how they determined those sizes. And those sizes were determined based on the conductor that was going to it.
Yeah, and then I thought that was interesting too, how that made electrodes used to actually be in the code language, and they actually removed it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually removed the term made electrodes, and because I don't remember, I think you said it was like 250/97 or something back then, but
250-96B.
okay, yeah, but it was funny because I like learned so much that podcast. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast. I'm sure everyone that watched it learned a lot too. Really.
And it's amazing when you've taught this stuff all these years, and you start doing this over and over. That's where you uh, get in and you start remembering all these sections from a long time ago when you've taught, a couple hundred classes on all these codes, and then they start changing sections and everything else. Your mind reflects back to all the sections you used to teach. It's just
Right.
it's just a memory of everything. So,
Yeah.
we
It,
used to
it
look
meant a
at
lot.
we used to look at table 250-94. That's now table 250 what 66,
Hmm.
or 250.66. So anyway,
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. Was it 250/94 was just one solid section, so you could just use the table for anything. And then they mentioned the made electrodes, and then they actually removed the made electrodes and put them in their own separate sections. And then, that to me, that was awesome. I mean, I learned so much from Pops that night.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and grab because we've got, we did a publication. We didn't sell a ton, but we still have all the information that covers every calculation in the code. And we actually show 295.7A and D as for the 2023 here, show how to do those voltage drop calculation at 15%, or if it was a motor running at 5% with a operating at 115% of the full load current rating of the motor. I think I might do a course one evening and go back, grab this information, show everybody how to do the voltage drop calculations here, and then show the original ones like we did before. And just
I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to look at NFPA 72 because, as everyone knows, I am a licensed fire alarm ninja now. So I'm gonna have to go see if there's anything in NFPA 72 on this.
If there is, just let me know. I can put the calculation together and we can show it. It's very simple.
Well, we'll just correlate the monitoring of it, whatever.
Okay. All right. Now, this is 700.3F. We're now in chapter 7, and this is where we get into the temporary source of our power for maintenance or repair of alternate source of power. And they basically just did a revision here. And the first one they did was in 4, and all they did was add some things here. They added the switching means, including interlocks, shall be listed and provided with mechanical and electrical interlocking to prevent what? Inadvertent interconnection of power sources.
Yes, sir.
Now, the reason that this is put in here is because this is where you have a temporary source of power where you're doing maintenance or repair. Okay?
Right.
And then what they did here is they added 6 and 7. And you'll notice they're talking about where you have a permanent connection point here for a temporary generator. And they tell you that is located outdoors. And it says it shall not have cables from the connection point to the temporary generator routed through exterior windows, doors, or similar openings. No kidding. And then also you need to also have what else? A permanent label shall be field applied at the permanent connection point to identify the system voltage, the maximum amperage, short circuit current rating of the load side of the equipment supplied, and ungrounded conductor identification in accordance with 210.5. Okay. Nice. So all they did here is just look at this where I'm dealing with generators and making sure that you recognize that we have requirements put in place for the permanent switching means that's required to connect a portable or temporary what? Alternating source of power. Okay. And the reason they're saying that is because that particular permanent switching means we're putting in has a responsibility to function as what? A transfer switch.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's why it has to be in there. So if that is the case, then that transfer switching means it has to include all of the safety features that are required for what? Safe operation, and it must be proven to properly perform under the worst case conditions of operation.
Okay? Yeah. And regardless if you have a temporary source of power, it's still a permanent switching device. So sure you have to treat it as a permanent part of that electrical system.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I don't see anything wrong with that one.
And I'll tell you, you go in and you look at all the other publications out there on the code change and stuff, and I will tell you, they will not get into all of this here that we're going to be getting into and showing you the illustrations and everything and pointing out all the sections you need to look at and how that particular section applies, because there's more to that than just that. We have other sections that are going to help address that even further. Now, another thing they did here dealing with generators, they added a new subsection here to help clarify that there are 2 distinctly different types of operation. You have normal source and you have emergency source. Okay. And they want to make sure that uh, uh, that you could have some systems that will utilize both of these type of conditions for parallel operations. So you could have normal source and emergency source. And if that's the case, also go over and look and at 701.4C, where you get into legally required and optional standard, you're going to see some of the same similar requirements that are placed here also. Okay. So we correlated both of these to let you know
Is
that
is that 701 or 700?
70, well, this in 700.4C, but there's similar
Okay.
requirements over in 701.4C.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. And
Awesome.
we give you an example here, and we took in our illustrations and we lay this out to let you understand between a normal source and emergency source. Because when you get into emergency source, they tell you here there's be permitted to operate in parallel where necessary equipment to establish and maintain what? A synchronous condition. Okay.
Right.
Where a normal source is not like that.
So this is to me, there's a really big gray area that comes in here because they, and we'll get into this more when we start getting into the microgrids and when we go get into like 705s and stuff later on. But they say scope is under normal operation. Well, normal operation of this equipment is in an emergency. So it's weird to talk about when you say that you're in an emergency situation, but then that equipment's functioning under normal operation. So I think there's a little bit of work for this in the code language to try to help it a little bit, because why would you tell me it's under normal operation and it's not even running? Because under normal operation, it's in an emergency condition. So I think there's a little bit of work we could do with the language to try to help this.
Well, it
to
depends,
be a little bit more clear,
because we're going to tell you what they're saying, it has to be in compliance with Part 1 or Part 2 of Article 705, but they tell you where the capacity required to supply the emergency load is maintained at all times. Now, if I go look at the emergency source, it just talks about the equipment necessary to establish and maintain a synchronous condition. Okay.
Which would be your normal operating condition.
That's right. So they're taking that into consideration here. And that's why I'm saying here, because they're saying where the capacity required to supply the emergency load is maintained at all times for the normal source. That's where they're giving this, though. I think they did all right here myself, because and that's why they allow in parallel.
I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying for different types of I guess you would call it energy storage systems, because to me that's, I don't know, I guess it's kind of, to me, a little bit of a gray area when you say like a generator is an energy storage system, or like batteries are energy storage system. Like I don't, like a generator is like an emergency backup system, but when you, like, sometimes in the hospital we get into like an inverter situation. And that's like critical power where you don't have the 10-second delay for generator startup. And then you run into like energy storage systems, and the energy storage systems say under normal operating conditions. Well, when you have an energy storage system, it's technically not under a normal operating condition when you're using it.
Correct.
It's under like an emergency system when the grid's down or something's down. So to me, it's just, I just feel that there's areas in 700 that could use some work, I think.
I think what they did here, they tried to take care of that by just saying where the capacity required to supply the emergency load is maintained at all times.
Yeah, and I that's a good point. Got Andrew in the house. Yeah, UPS battery backups. Yeah, good point, Andrew. Yep, that's what we're talking about here. But all right, I'll let you continue. I don't mean to. I
No
bust
worries.
your things there.
When you ask the question, I give an answer.
Yeah, no, you're good. I just think there's gonna be some stuff coming up that we're gonna get into.
All right, now this is going to deal with the wiring for your Class 2 powered emergency lighting systems, and it's got its general requirements, but it comes in and it talks about identification shall be permanently marked for your emergency circuits. So, of course, they're readily identifiable. And then it talks about uh, uh, what are the following methods you could use to provide that? Well, you could have it at all boxes and enclosures for Class 2 emergency circuits. They should be permanently marked as a component of that system. Exposed cables, cable trays, or raceway systems shall be permanently marked to be identified as a component of an emergency circuit or system within what 13 foot of each connector at intervals not to exceed 25 foot. More than likely, that'll probably be a good one as we get further down into the NEC death match as a question.
Yeah.
Then you get into your separation of circuits. And I'm not going to go through all this, but basically what I want to point out, they're given rules and regulations here for the wiring for these Class 2 powered emergency lighting systems now. And they talk about the identification, the separation of your circuits, and the protection of the wiring methods.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. No, there's nothing wrong with that one.
No, that's actually a good ad there. All right.
Yep.
And then the last one we got for this week is 700.24. And what they did, they made a revision here to help clarify that a directly controlled luminaire can be energized to emergency lighting level in two ways, each of which dictates a different listing requirement for the luminaire itself. So there's basically what they're going to do, they're going to give you two levels here. Okay. And level one is an active control signal for the listed external control system. And it also requires that the luminaire itself to be listed as a directly controlled emergency luminaire. And level two is by disconnection of the luminaire's control input by a listed emergency lighting control device. And one of those control devices is items like an automatic load control relay. Okay. So they're just giving you two levels.
Andrew, I was just kind of joking about the energy storage, but if everyone went to generators, you'd still be using Chapter 7, I think.
Hey, that's true. I'm not going to disagree with that. But what makes it interesting is they're making a lot of changes here. And I can tell you that we have in our design book, we have a general cover of everything. But when you get into more specific stuff like this, that's why we have another publication that deals with generators, transformers, motors, and compressors, because we start getting into more detailed stuff like this here, and where you get into peak shaving loads and stuff like that. You got to really know what you're looking at. Yes, it's 2023, Andrew. And those were the 5 changes this week for the new 2023. Matter of fact, we're getting close to finishing them up, and we started this back in July doing 5 a week. So that gives y'all an idea. We're basically covering close to 240 changes.
Yeah, and not to do a plug on Stall Cup on the Gray Boy or anything, but they did the most changes of anybody out there with 237 or 238, I believe, which that was a lot. So
yeah, we did quite a few.
I give my hats off to you guys. You did a great job this cycle.
And what's interesting, a majority of it that we did was section changes. I mean, because when you get into Article 220, they redid all those sections in there. Where we were used to, like, I'll just give you an example. if I was looking at table 220.12 and I was going to pick up my VA per square foot for doing my load calculations for my general lighting and receptacle loads, now that's table 220.42A. If I was going to look at the VA load, I used to look at 220.14J in the last cycle. Now that's 220.42A. I mean 41A. So
Yeah, 41.
all of that's changed. And then you go over and look at, we used to look at 430.52C. Now it's 430.52C1 in table 430.52C1. And then where we used to have exception 1 and 2 underneath 430.52C1, now that's going to be called 430.52C1A and C1B. So you got to know everything that's changed. And you also need to go over and look like at 440.22A. We used to look at A, and that would tell us for sizing the minimum size overcurrent device for an AC unit, we do 175% and 225 for the max. Now they did it like you're looking at 430.52C1. The 175 is in 440.22A. Then you've got exception 1 that allows you to go up to the next size. Then you go to exception number 2, and that's the 200. Or I'm sorry, it's 440.22A, and then it's A and A1 and A2, I think it is. And then you got go up to the next size, and then for the max is 2, and that's your 225%. So
hey, so I got one for you, James.
Mm-hmm.
You probably got this one on speed dial, but what is the change for neat and workmanlike manner 110.12? What does it say now? Must be installed in a blank.
Well, it used to say neat and workmanlike manner.
What does it say now under 2023?
I don't know.
Skillful.
We didn't even do that one, so I didn't even pay any attention. But I know it used to say neat and workmanlike manner. So it's skillful now?
Yeah. A professional and skillful manner is the change for that one.
Oh, yeah, Andrew, just send me a message, brother. I'll help you out.
Dude, Andrew, I just got James on one. I got him on an easy one, too.
Hell, that's not
even with you, brother. I'll be getting you.
I'm not even counting that one. That's not even really a change. I don't get it.
Are we ready to do the tool or what?
Yeah, let me set you up.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by Electricians Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
All right. Yeah, awesome. I got some bad news for you, James. Looks like Andrew says it counted.
No, it doesn't. Shut up, Andrew.
All right, so this is the only probably red product I'd probably be interested in. This is the Milwaukee Impact, really lightweight, a lot of power. I believe it's 12 volt. It's the 12 volt fuel line. The batteries seem to be pretty decent. Really lightweight, fits in your tool pouch. You could just I wouldn't recommend apprentices be going through and doing receptacles with this because it probably put too many ugga-duggas on the screw and strip them out. I've seen guys strip out receptacles before, and it really sucks to try to go in there and get your thread tap in there and retap it to the threads in there again. And like I say, I would rate this probably the highest Milwaukee product that I would actually go buy. If I was gonna be just simply carrying around an Impact all day, this would be the one that I would do. My DeWalt one's a little bit heavy, a lot heavier than this one. Has a lot more power, but I don't think you really need the power. And then they have been coming out with models of these where you can dial the torque down to where you just do it for like trimming out and stuff. And so from a Milwaukee standpoint, James knows I'm not a real fan of red, but this would be one of the red tools that I really enjoy, and I would put in my lineup. I do have Milwaukee and DeWalt in my tool lineup, and this would be one of the ones I use for trimming out and stuff. And so,
cool.
Yeah, and Andrew looks like he's using his apprentice uses one of those. But yeah, I really like them, and I don't know if you noticed, but
There's
I might have slipped in.
What is this slide?
Yeah, I might have slipped in a little. Oh,
oh, you got a code question of the week. Cool.
Yeah. So continuous duty motors rated more than 1 horsepower with service factor less than 1.15 shall have a minimum running overload protection sized at blank % of the motor nameplate and full load ampere rating, or may have a maximum running overload protection sized at no more than blank % of the nameplate full load rating of the motor. And I might have added some extra answers in here. I have added extra answers on everything I do, but
is this for me?
We'll see if we can stump you, brother.
This is for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
see if we get you.
I
know Andrew's all fired up. I already got it once on the 110.12 for 2023.
All right, so you got a service factor 1.15, so it's 1.15 or greater.
No, it's less.
Oh, less than. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of the table. So that'd be 1.5 or greater. You don't have a temperature rise in here. Okay, so that would fall under other motors, and you would look at 430.32A1 for the minimum, and then you're going to look at 430.32C, and that would pick up for your maximum. And since you don't have a temperature rise there, that would be 115 and 130%. I go with A.
Hey, you are correct, and you win, sir. That is correct. You quoted the code references and everything. You are right.
Well,
you got it.
That's actually pretty hard because most people won't remember all the percentages that go in, but I do it all the time, so I sort of know. But that was much easier in doing those Super Bowl questions.
Yeah, and that's really funny. We're really totally open to you asking questions, Andrew. That's the whole reason we do this. And I knew I wasn't going to get you on that one. I knew that if I was doing a code one, I don't know if you've seen this, Andrew, but I got James. James went 1 for 5 on the Super Bowl trivia. So it was really funny. I was like, oh, I want to try it again. I want to see if I get him.
And what was so funny is I had 2 answers for each one of them. It was the second one. I knew it was right there. I just kind of, if I'd have went with the other one, I would have went 5 for 5. One of them, yeah.
And I tried to put a bunch of cowboy ones in there because I was like, oh man, I'm gonna make James look good because I have a whole bunch of cowboy ones in there. He's gonna get it right away. And then you said it wrong. Dude, when it cracked me up when you went on your second answer to go Ohio State, I was like, oh hell, because I just made that one up, and I just thought, man, everyone gives Ohio State so much credit.
That was my third one. My first 2 were Notre Dame and Michigan. I never would have thought it was Cal, but I knew it was one of those 2. They were tied, wasn't they? They were both second. And the one I missed on the Cowboys, I even said, because you had other answers there, and I said, well, I think that's either Harvey Martin or Chuck Howley. I said, I think I'll go with Harvey. And then the other one, the most points scored, And I was actually going with the Cowboys. I said 74. And you go, what? No, what's
Yeah.
next? And I said 75. I knew it had to be right there.
Dude, I wasn't even going to put the 74 in there, but I went and I looked at the second highest score, and it was 74, so I had to put it in there, and then I got you.
I would have got it if it hadn't been 74, but I knew it was one of those two. I was like, because we were talking, I go, it's got to be 74, 75. So
Andrew's bombing on you, brother. He's got you on the bandwagon, on the Cowboys bandwagon.
Hey, I'm not going to disagree. They've been sucking. Dak folds under pressure. He ain't got it. His eyes were so bugged out during that game. He looked like he was about to. He looked like he'd seen a freaking ghost. Every time he threw an interception, he's like, "Oh, what? Like, yeah, you threw another interception."
Dude, I always like the one with Dak where they're like, Santa's like, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas, Dak?" And he's like, "I want a dragon." And then Santa's like, "Hey, Dak, come on, man, be more realistic." He's like, "Oh, I want to win a playoff game." He's like, "All right, what color dragon?"
No kidding. Well, he did win one,
yeah.
But just because the rest of the defense was playing so good. But he just, I'll tell you when I lost all respect for him is the kicker missed all them field goals, and he's over there throwing stuff on the sideline, getting all mad, and I was thinking to myself, why are you doing that? You wasn't doing that when you were throwing all them interceptions. You're gonna bash on the kicker because he missed some extra points. I mean,
just one playoff game, Andrew says. So funny.
I'm not disagreeing. Andrew? Who's your team, brother?
I know he's a Okie. He's an Oklahoma guy.
The Sooners is his team.
Yeah, for college. I don't know what his pro team is.
So
I thought he said he liked to I thought he was a team back east or something, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so he's Oklahoma Sooner. Okay, well, didn't they lose 49-0 to Texas?
Yeah,
baby, Uncle Horns.
Yeah, that was a rough loss, for them.
I don't care if we lose every game to them. That's one they ain't ever gonna live down. I bought a shirt and from New Jersey.
I thought you liked the Giants, Andrew. I thought you were going for the Giants this season, but I don't remember exactly the whole thing. He's from New Jersey and he likes Sooners, but he likes OSU, or his wife likes OSU.
Oh, Baker, right? OSU. My best friend Travis is OSU fan, and he been giving me crap. But I bought a shirt that says 49, and then the other side it's got OU, but it's got the OU sign turned upside down that says no. No points.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's the first time. That's been a long time since they actually had something like that happen in the Red River Rumble.
I don't think they've ever been beat like that. I was like, I was sitting there watching the game, and I was over at my in-laws at Granbury Lake, and their next door neighbors are big Sooner fans, and we were over there. They just walked inside the house. They wouldn't say hi or nothing afterwards. They were so mad. I was like, hey, y'all can't be that way. The year before that and the year before that, y'all were giving us a hard time over there.
Yeah. I agree with that. Well, no, it was an awesome show. I really appreciate everyone. Really appreciate Andrew joining up with us. It was a lot of fun. Dude, I'm gonna keep coming. I'm gonna keep trying to stump you. I think we might end up just trying to maybe do a quiz at the end of the show or something, but in the future. But I'll maybe now that I figured out how to slip slides in there and catch you, I might be catching you. I might be getting you. You know, I got you on 110.12. I don't know. I might be able to get you on some others, but
I don't consider that a real question.
Dude, Andrew said it counted. Andrew, come on, Andrew, it counts. He said I got you. Andrew said it. So
that doesn't count because that was the new 2023, and I haven't caught up on everything yet. That's completely changed.
Dude, are you saying you didn't cover the most cited violation by per Nika? I mean, come on, man. Said that? Yeah, it was. Remember, I posted the thing from Charlie Trout. And,
I forgot about. Yeah, that's a bunch of crap. That ain't the most cited. That's a bunch of crap. I can't believe they posted that. If that.
Dude, no. It's in every handbook that I found. It's even in 2020. I went and looked at the handbooks, and it's all copied and pasted in there. And I was like, really? The most cited violation.
I can tell you with 100% fact, when I was the chief electrical inspector in Grapevine, I only cited that one time out of thousands of inspections. So, no, it wasn't the most cited.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, thanks a lot, Andrew, for being on my side and telling me I got James. I really appreciate everyone joining. David Englehart, we will be getting you, James will be getting you taken care of quickly. And hopefully you're a CMECP by then.
A what?
CMECP, a certified master electrical code professional.
Oh, really? What state is that out of?
It's a made up fantasy title made up by some YouTube guy.
Wait a minute. Somebody just created their own little thing, and
you don't remember Crystal? You don't remember Crystal talking about it on her podcast?
She did say something about
she said the person that made up their own title.
Who was that?
It was Paul Abernathy. It was the CMECP program.
Really?
And you pass his program, you become a CMECP. And David Englehart wants to be a CMECP. So you only have 6 months to do it, though. If you don't do it in 6 months, then you did not get the sword out of the stone.
I'm just curious. Do you have to be a journeyman to pass that, or a master to pass?
No.
You can be an apprentice. You don't have to have any time requirements or nothing.
You might have to be a master, I think, to be a CMECP. I'm not sure because I don't know any non-master CMECPs. I think you have to be a master, but I'm not sure. I don't know because
it would seem to me he'd have to verify all that before he let them take it.
Maybe. I don't know. You might be I would like to see if there was like some non-master CMECPs out there. I mean, to me, master seems just a little bit racist. I don't know if I'd be using that. I'd be using like qualified electrician qualification or something. I don't know. Just seems I don't know. You might be walking a thin line with that. Using that.
Are you becoming woke now?
Dang it!
They're going to shut down our podcast now.
we just went to zero. We just went to zero watching. But no, I really appreciate everyone showing up, and I'm gonna keep trying to get you, James, if you'll let me for the next few weeks. All right.
I answer anything. I don't care what it is.
What was funny? What was funny? There was a bunch of people in the dummies. I couldn't believe you didn't see the post in dummies because I thought you were going to see it. And I was like, oh, you ain't even going to be surprised.
I'm so busy right now, I don't even get on hardly.
I put in alternate answers in dummies because a bunch of people were saying it was this and that and this. And E, I totally just made up off my head where it said 100% for the minimum. And it was just funny. So you'll have to get on dummies and check it out. There's guy by the name of Eric Collier on there that said there is no minimum for a motor start. But it actually says in
he doesn't know
230.
He's not right.
Yeah, I think it's in 230.32C, I believe, that says if the motor doesn't start at 115%, then you can go to a maximum of 130%. So that was the correct answer to that question.
Well, when you're looking at, I need to get James in any sort of way.
There you go. I like it, man. Oh, all right. Yeah.
No, what did I do there, buddy? I don't get it. I mean, I'm trying over here. Everybody's wanting to see if they can stump me. All right, I'm good with it.
Dude, I think we found something everyone likes, so I'm gonna keep trying to get it every week. But like I say, it's pretty fun. It's been a lot of fun, and appreciate you guys all joining.
Ah, hell yeah! All right, yeah, bring me another one next week. What the hell? I'm good with it.
Right on. Thanks for joining, Andrew. Really awesome.
Hey, we're great.
Oh, dude, the abs are getting it. Dude, the abs are getting it. You ain't getting. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. All right.
What did he say?
He's basically saying that, hey, we agree that Colorado is horrible, James.
Oh, how far are the Avs back now?
We're right there, man. We're number 3 in the West right now.
Oh, good. Who's number 1?
We got 2 back-to-backs against the Jets coming up and Calgary. So there's a chance that we could probably tie up with Dallas and be number 2, tied for number 2 in the West.
Dallas is number 2 now?
I'm not sure exactly, but there's the Jets and Dallas, and I think they're going back and forth, but Dallas might be number 1 in the West. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, but the whole thing is we're hurt. We have like 2/3 of our team, and we're still winning. So,
making excuses.
We're getting it. We're getting it.
You can make whatever excuse you want. Y'all won the Stanley Cup last year. Say anything you want.
Go Avs.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right, sir. Well, remember, everyone, make every day an easy day.
Amen. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see y'all next Thursday.
Peace.